Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Let's Chat Reality. I'm Michael.
And I'm Molly.
And today we have a very exciting episode because we are covering Survivor Australia versus the World, an incredible season of Survivor. We covered the premiere, and now we're coming back around to it at the very end to talk about the rest of this hectic, fast paced, crazy season. And we're also going to do a little Dancing with the Stars draft. Season 34 is right around the corner, and we wanted to do a little cast preview and draft so that we are getting ready for that season, which we are also very excited about. So, Molly, are you ready to get started with some Survivor?
Yes, let's do it.
All right. So, like I said, we covered the premiere, but a lot has happened since then, even though it was only just about less than a month ago that it premiered. But, Molly, what are your thoughts on this season as a whole now that it's come to an end?
Yeah, it was an amazing season. This was my first time actually watching Australian Survivor, and I don't think I understood like the aspect of like the production level and all of the different challenges and things that they do, like the fire making at tribal, like all of that. I was just like, this is a crazy show. And I mean, we obviously love it in the US here, but I felt like Australian Survivor is just like to another level, which makes it really fun, especially seeing some of our favorites back and playing all together. Like it was just a culmination of everything I wanted to see and more. So it was a great season.
Yeah, Survivor Australia or Australian Survivor, if you will, is really its own thing. Like it's its own little world that is very different than US Survivor in so many ways. I mean, a regular season of Australian Survivor is 24 episodes. So it's 3 days a week like we had with this, but rather than it just being 3 weeks or 3 weeks in one day, we it's normally a 8 weeks of 3 episodes a week, and it's a lot. And they have like non-elimination episodes. They have twists where somebody is voted out, but they're not really voted out. They go to like a separate island, and then they or get switched to the other tribe. Like they do things like that all the time. That are things that we just never see on U.S. Survivor because it's only 12 episodes, so they just don't simply have time to do twists like that. But yeah, I love Australian Survivor. The production value, like you said, is just it's on another level than US Survivor. It's just such a different way of thinking about Survivor and producing it. And there's so much about it that I really love. And I think that this was such a great little taste of it for fans of US Survivor that are watching for Parvati and Suri and Tony, but maybe didn't know any of the Australian survivors or the rest of the world and or seen an episode of Australian Survivor. And so I loved everything about it. It was like a Survivor fever dream to me.
I know. I wish we could get this every year, but I don't think that's really
Maybe we will.
maybe.
Who
That would
says
be
we're
great.
not?
Yeah, that's true. We can speak it into existence. It's gonna happen.
I agree. I don't even need it every year. I think it could be like the Olympics where it's like every 2 years, like I don't think I think every year we might run out of people too quickly, but I think every other year could be perfect where it's like special every time you get excited for it, but it's often enough that it's like okay, it's coming in the future. Like, you know that it's coming, but it's not necessarily so often that you just kind of run out of people too quickly.
Yeah,
But we'll
that's
see. We will see. But let's get into this season and just some highlights from the episode 2 to episode 9 that we didn't cover by themselves. We wanted to make sure to not miss any major events that happened during that time. So let's talk about David Janae. David, our golden god of Australian Survivor and new host of Australian Survivor, it was voted out in episode 2. He did not was not long for this world in this season, but we obviously were all looking forward to and hoping that he and Parvati would reunite after their Dondi experience just a few weeks before this filmed.
yeah.
And unfortunately, we did not get to see that because he was voted out pre-merge, and so they never crossed paths directly. But if they had, in some alternate universe, Molly, what do you think their relationship would have been? Would they have played together as closely as they did on Dondi? How would that have impacted Parvati's relationship with Suri and David's relationship with Luke? What would have happened?
Yeah, no, it's kind of sad in a way that we saw David leave so early on just because we didn't get to see that reunion of them if they had both made merge together. So it's fun to like speculate on that. And I do think that they would have worked together in some ways, but like obviously it was shown like well George they had mentioned it that like they played together. So people knew that they couldn't just keep it a secret at that point, which we also didn't know if like they would keep that a secret. But it was obvious that they knew each other from the beginning episodes. So I feel like because of that, like people would know that they would want to work together. So they couldn't really hide that aspect of it. But I do think that Parvati would have still stayed strongest to Suri, but then had David there as like her second number one.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that Parvati's relationship with Suri just goes back so much further. They've been friends and they played together in 2008 the first time. So Parvati and David only go back to, well, 2024 when this filmed. So they had a good experience on Dondi. I'm sure that they would have tried to play together as closely as they could have, but and I think that it maybe would have been great for actually both of their games because David would have had been able to get relationships with like Suri, and if Tony in another universe and this universe had made it further, then I'm sure that Parvati could have helped him out with those relationships, and David could have helped Parvati out with her relationship with Luke and Janine and all these people who David has played with and knows from his previous seasons that I'm sure if he had gone that far that he would have probably played closely with. So I think that that would have been very, very interesting to see how Parvati would have navigated that. But I agree with you that I think first and foremost, her friendship with Suri comes first.
Yes, agreed. But I mean, it was a big move to get him out that early, so props on Australia for that.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, look, he dominated Survivor Australian All Stars in a way that like there's no way that I think David ever comes back to Survivor Australia and makes it past the first few episodes because he dominated that game where it was like nobody stood a chance. It was like they were zombies to him. It's like Boston Rob in Redemption Island. Like they were just he kept that alliance together and nobody else stood a chance. So I just think as long as he came back with people who watched that season and knew what he was capable of, there's no way that he makes it that far. And look, he Parvati knows he won $6 million. So like he doesn't need this money, and I think that that also would have impacted Parvati's thinking probably, where it's like, yeah, I want to stay. Like I know that David's going to stay loyal to me. I want us to make it as far as we can together, but I'm not letting him win another $500,000. Like he doesn't need that.
Yeah.
So she has that little piece of information in her pocket that I think David even would have understood that.
Oh, for sure.
Well, let's move on to episode 4 then, because that was an interesting one that gave us a little twist that both tribes competed for individual immunity and went to tribal. But then once they got to tribal, each tribe drew rocks to randomly choose one person to represent their tribe in fire making. So whoever won that fire making, which ended up being Sarah over Suri, who were both randomly chosen there, and they Sarah earned safety for her whole tribe. So Australia was able to leave tribal council, and then the world tribe had to vote someone out. So what did we think of this twist and the way that it worked out?
I mean, it was interesting just because at least like it was only one person ended up going home here, which I thought might have been just like or at this point we didn't know what was going to happen until there, but I think for overall like the way that they did this, like it was kind of fun to see because then it was like tribe and not like it was going to be one against the other kind of thing because it seemed like
Mhm.
there might have been people going to rocks or whatever like at the end instead of that being in the beginning for rocks for fire. But I liked it overall. I thought it was an interesting twist.
Yeah, I think I would have just rathered it be a straight, like, two double tribal council where both tribes had to vote someone out because
Yeah.
I would think I would prefer that over what we got in episode 7, which was like an immediate tribal right after that crazy tribal, which, we'll get to. But I think like that was and look, they had no way of knowing that that tribal was going to be so crazy, but like I just think that it was almost too much in that one episode of episode 7, whereas like I think if they had just done that as the double tribal in episode 4 and then in episode 7 just kind of left that as a normal vote, I think that in the end, the way that it worked out, I think it would have been better. But again, like they really had no way of knowing that tribal was going to be so crazy in episode 7 that they didn't need to do that twist. But also, like I think that the way that they've done it in the past with Australian Survivor, that Shani was talking about in episode 4, where they each tribe votes someone out, and then those two people go to fire, and the winner is safe, the loser goes home. I think even that would have been better because it would have forced both tribes to really like have to vote. And then one of them has to have the person who was just voted out come right back in and have to build those relationships back up, potentially be blindsided. And I think that would have led to a very interesting dynamic in that tribe that we didn't get because only one tribe had to actually vote.
Yeah, I kind of forgot about that. I was thinking, I realized that now, like looking back, I'm like, oh wait, I definitely did think about that too. But I feel like it was, yeah, that would have been so crazy if that, if they had to go back to their camp and just got voted out, but then had the safety of getting the fire.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that that leads to a more dramatic outcome, right?
Yeah.
In this way that we got it, it was kind of obvious that Sarah was going to win because we didn't get that much of the strategizing with the Australian tribe. So I think because we had just seen back at camp so much more of the dynamic of the world tribe that week, I think it was like, okay, well they're probably going to lose because they're not going to show all of this for nothing. Whereas
Yeah.
the Australian tribe, we just didn't get that much from them.
Yeah, I agree. You can definitely tell by the editing of that episode that it was obvious.
Which is the one thing that I think US Survivor does so much better is the editing and allowing everybody to kind of get a bit of an even edit these days in the new era. This has not always been the case with US Survivor, but in the new era, I think they've done a very good job of giving everybody an even enough edit that it's hard to tell who's which tribe is going to win and who's going to go home because they don't telegraph it as much as Australian Survivor does. Like they make it pretty obvious, like, okay, this person's probably going home. This tribe is probably losing just because, like, they really don't care about making sure everybody gets their fair share of screen time.
Oh yeah, definitely not.
Well, then let's go to episode 5. So the tribes merged and they had the auction right at the same time, which love that. Love the Survivor auction. Missed that on US Survivor. We got it in 45, but in 47, I think, but they did not. The auction in US Survivor now is very different, and I miss the regular auction that we got here, but that's besides the point. Parvati was chosen by Luke, who won the very first item, to have to go back to camp and skip the auction. But unbeknownst to Luke, when Parvati went back, and Parvati, when she went back to camp alone, she found a jar of cookies. And this was a great moment, that when she was stuffing her face with the cookies, and then she was like, oh, shoot, I need to hide them. Then she goes to hide them, she digs a little hole, and then they break. And there's glass all over the cookies. Oh my God, such a sad moment. I felt so bad for her until she notices, because of this, a little clue in there, and she gets the knowledge is power advantage hidden inside. Now, for those who don't know, the knowledge is power advantage allows somebody before the votes are cast, if you think you know that somebody has an idol, you are able to say, "Hey, I'm stealing that idol from you." If they have it, they have to give it to you. If not, they say, "Oops, sorry," and then your power is left useless. So now at this point, she'd already found an idol. So she's pretty powerful here. What do you think of this twist? And did it make Parvati almost too powerful?
Yeah, as soon as I saw this, I was like, this reminds me of when we saw like people were complaining about Eva having too many
Mm.
secret advantages that she was getting like production maybe placing for her and like that's what like this placement like reminded me of those moments we just saw. So I was kind of like, well, I love Parvati, so like I'm happy for her, but like also did she need this? Like I don't know. But I mean, obviously, it's going to help her game, and she's already doing a great job at playing Survivor. But like, this is going to boost her even more. So I was excited about that because I obviously was rooting for her. But it did seem like a little bit like, okay, maybe this was a lot of power just for Parvati to have. And I was also sad to see those cookies being in the sand there without they couldn't be eaten anymore, and they were like freshly baked, looked delicious. So just was making me hungry.
Yeah. So they did the cookies before in Survivor Australia. What season was that? It was 2017, I believe, with Jericho, who ended up winning the season. Spoiler alert, sorry. But he got this cookie advantage, and it was kind of this famous thing because I don't think there was an advantage hidden inside of it at that time, but he was able to win allies by just being like, "Hey, I have this secret jar of cookies, and you're the only one I'm telling about it." But he told a couple people about it, and so all of them thought that they were the only one that he told, and they're like, "Oh my God, well clearly he actually does view me as an ally because I'm the only one he's telling about this." And it was a great way for him to really win over people. And so I love the secret cookie thing, and I think that by itself, even, I think it would have been great. Look, obviously, there's no way they would know that it was going to be Parvati that would be sent there and that she would already have an idol. I agree with you. I think, with the Eva comparison, that's interesting. I hadn't thought about that. I think with Eva, it was probably worse only because one of her advantages she got because she already had won immunity, they put her in a certain spot at the reward where she was the only one who could have gotten that advantage. And people said, "Oh, it was because it was Eva." No, it was because she had won immunity. But even still, they should not double reward somebody like that by winning immunity and getting it, and the only one who has potential to win that advantage.
Yeah.
But here, she thinks she's getting punished and then she's getting this reward. So I don't have as much of a problem with it because it wasn't like she won this amazing thing at the auction and then also gets this cookie. Like, well, I guess she gets the cookies and the advantage, but still, it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
But yeah,
It
I don't have,
levels out a little bit more.
yeah, yeah, I don't have a huge problem with it, but I think, yeah, it just kind of it fortunately worked out because we love Parvati, but if it had been somebody else, I think we would have I probably would have, I'm being hypocritical. I probably would have had more of a problem with it, but I don't care
Yeah.
because it was Parv.
Understandable.
Yeah, I'm part of the Hippocratic Party. But let's move on to episode 6. So here, Parvati, controversially, potentially, decides to agree to vote out Kirby. Now, Kirby is somebody who loved Parvati. Now, Kirby has never seen Survivor before she was on, and she was only on 2 years ago. So she is kind of this rookie in the Survivor world where she doesn't know any of these people basically, besides maybe some of the names she had met at events or something in the Australian Survivor world. I'm sure she had met some of these people before, but really, like, she's coming into this pretty fresh, probably more so than anyone else. And she fell in love with Parv. Like, she got the Parvati's charm worked on Kirby, it seems like, because when they merged, I mean, not just Kirby, but also Shawnee, also Sarah, all these people want to work with Parvati and Suri. And it's just like their charm is insane. The fact that all of these incredible players are just falling at the altar of Parvati and Suri is incredible to watch. And Parvati, Kirby basically said, "Look, Parv, I'm with you, whatever you want to do." And then the tides kind of turn on Kirby and Parvati goes along with it. But do you think that, Parvati had talked about potentially using her idol on Kirby to save her in this vote? Do you think that she should have done that, given that Kirby was so loyal to her?
Yeah, I felt like it would have been too crazy of a move for Parvati here just because she had such strong alliances already with people back from the World Tribe and Suri that at this moment in time, it just felt like she couldn't really betray those people. And going against Kirby just made sense in that moment. Even if she didn't want to do it then, like she tried not to and tried to sway the vote, but it just didn't work out in her favor. So because of that, like it was really the only decision she could make in that moment, just to continue on and like looking past, for obviously she was looking to the end game of it, and like knowing that looking on from that moment in time probably was going to be more difficult to repair those relationships if she had tried to be on Kirby's side there.
Yeah, I agree. It seemed like, and she kind of talked about this a bit at Final Tribal, that she was really by this point set on working with Luke and Janine,
Right.
and they wanted Kirby out. And I just think her trying to sway this by herself would have put a target on her back where they're like, she's not willing to work with us. Like, she's looking out only for herself. Saving Kirby is only good for Parvati. And so I think, unfortunately, when you're stuck in a situation like that and you've kind of made the decision, like, I'm going to work with these people, if these people don't want to work with somebody who you do want to work with, you got to make a choice. And I think she can't have the best of both worlds. It just would have been impossible because they were so set on getting Kirby out. And so, and for good reason. And so I think that she just kind of had to make that choice, unfortunately, even though Kirby was somebody who, yeah, would have probably never betrayed her. But it's like later on, Suri has to do this with Lisa. And it's kind of a similar situation where Lisa's never going to turn on Suri. And unfortunately, Parvati doesn't trust Lisa. Lisa doesn't trust Parvati. Suri had to make a choice between them and had to do it. So it's a fast paced game like that.
Yeah, no, I felt like we were seeing so much of their strategy too, which was kind of fun to see. Like those conversations of more of that gameplay and decisions there. Like I feel like we don't see it like that in the US. Maybe it's just been a while since we've seen a season as well. But I mean, not so long, but like since I ever remember, like this past year season.
Yeah.
But I just think it's cool to see like all the strategy talk that we get to in Australian Survivor, because then you really get to see how decisions are getting made. And obviously, then in the final, when Parvati was also clearing up about that vote to Kirby, because obviously Kirby didn't know that was happening. But we were seeing on Parvati's side, like her telling us, like, okay, yeah, like not sure if I should play my idol. So we knew that was a possibility,
Hmm.
which I liked that too. Like they even showed us that in the episode when Kirby was removed there.
Yeah, well, I think this season is so unique because it was only 16 days. And so we're almost seeing like almost every day was a tribal, especially towards the end. Like I think the first few episodes were kind of 2 to 3 days each, like a normal season. But then towards the end, it got to be where it was like everyday tribal. And so because of that, and because like, look, I don't know how scheduling works on Survivor and in Australia, not just on Survivor, but like the episode lengths were so crazy. Like it was like some episodes would be like 40 minutes, some would be like 100, like an hour and 10 minutes, some would be just like an hour. Like I don't understand how they worked, but I do think that it works well because it seemed like each episode was just as long as it needed to be based on how much was happening in it. And so it seemed like because the season was so short, it felt like we got to see a higher percentage of everything that was happening versus like US Survivor or Australian Survivor, where each episode is like 3 days encompassing. Each episode here was only encompassing a day, basically. So we got to see a lot more of, I think, what was happening at camp than we normally probably miss so much. So I think that probably helped also in feeling like we're seeing most of what's happening, the important stuff at least.
Yeah, which was great to see.
Hmm. Yeah, and look, it didn't bother me that it was only 16 days. I don't know, people may disagree with me on that, but I didn't feel like this is just like a little like this doesn't count as a real Survivor season. It was only 16 days. I don't care how long they're out there. As long as like I think that it helped to make the season feel like there's this urgency about everything. Everyone's like, we don't have time to just sit around and just kind of go the easy way. Whatever we want to happen, we need to make sure it happens. And I think that it really lit a fire under everybody to play hard, and I think that really benefited the season.
Oh yeah, definitely. I feel like because of that, like there was so much gameplay happening just from the start of the season, and like I feel like that's never the case in regular Survivor
Hmm.
season. So it was also great to see. Obviously, these players are top of their game, so that's also maybe a factor in that too. But like they're just like really good players at Survivor, and so they know the kind of competitions to have and the good ones to have to help them get through. Or if maybe
Yeah.
not, then they go home.
Well, and also, I think it helped the fact that each tribe starting out was only 7 players,
Yeah.
versus I think like, and we, obviously on U.S. Survivor now, we start out with 3 tribes of 6. So it kind of is a similar thing where the tribes are so small that there's really nowhere to hide. Whereas
Mhm.
I think normally on Australian Survivor, you get 2 tribes of 12. So it's like there's so many people in each tribe that it's very easy, I think, to kind of just like hide in the shadows. Versus here, it's like, no, you're only one of 7, and we're gonna merge in like 5 days. So we gotta like really get this going. If we want someone out before the merge, we gotta make sure this happens now, because we might not get another chance. And so I think that just it really it helped things that everybody was trying to always make sure that their agenda was the one that was accomplished. And it was just, and you're full of people, again, this is a cast full of people who are used to getting their way in most situations. And so it really was just so fun to watch. And I think that, yeah, I just, again, I could rave about this season for days.
I know. I wish we had more time to talk about it because it's just so much goodness that we had to talk about with
Yeah.
it.
Well, let's get to an episode, speaking
Oh
of goodness, that was filled with nothing but goodness. It was a crazy episode 7 that we had. So, most of this episode was Tribal Council. Like, when they get into Tribal and we had like 30 plus minutes left in the episode, I was like, what is happening? What is about to occur? And could have never guessed that Parvati came in and pretty much right away put her hidden immunity idol around her neck. And she was right away. There was so much whispering going on, so much strategizing. We don't need to get into the nitty gritty of it all, but right before the votes were cast, Cass tries to play her idol. And then, right as she does, Parvati goes, wait a minute, I have something else. So she tries to play her knowledge as power advantage, and she starts to read it. And then before she gets to the point of saying that it has to be played before the votes are cast, she stops there and makes everybody think that she can use it after someone like Cass, after the votes are cast, and Cass tries to play her idol. Sorry, cast and Cass is
I
getting
know a
confusing
lot
to
of
me.
similarities.
Yeah. But Cass freaks out because she's like, oh crap. Well, Parvati, I wasn't using this against you. And then Parvati, they kind of talk a little bit, and Cass is like, I'm using it on Lisa. Were you putting the votes on Lisa? And she's like, oh no. So Cass goes and plays her idol on Lisa, and they end up sending Cass home right then and there. And it's just this crazy move that, Molly, what were your thoughts as you saw this happen?
I know. I was in shock also when I saw the episode was like still 30 minutes left and I was like, "Whoa, this is a lot longer. What's going to happen here?" But I felt like Parvati knew she had to do something in this moment cuz she felt like she was already like people were talking about her and if she didn't seem like she could trust the rest of the world tribe at this point because they were all trying to go for her based on what Lisa even told her on the side there in tribal. So Barbary really had a lot of information here that like made sense for her to want to do this and like trying to make sure that what was going to happen could happen still. um, but I felt like it was really smart on Parvati to make this move.
Yeah, this was something that there was a lot of debate. Like, did Parvati know that she could not use her knowledge as power in this moment? Was she bluffing, or did she genuinely think she could play it and couldn't? And it turns out it's kind of a combination of the two,
Yeah.
because she was saying in her interview, was it with Mike Bloom, I think, or maybe with Shannon? I can't remember. But she said that she kind of just, she didn't remember how she could or couldn't play this advantage. And so when Cass pulled out her idol, her first thought was just like, "Oh no, I have knowledge is power." And then she pulls it out and starts reading it, and as she's reading it, she realizes, "Oh, this last line says you have to play this before votes are cast." So she, in that moment, decides, I'm not going to read it. And I'm going to make everybody think that I can play this right now. And it worked because
Yeah.
knowledge is power has never been seen in Australian Survivor, only US Survivor. And after, like, Parvati, I don't think has ever played with knowledge is power really. It probably was a thing in Winners at War, but she wasn't there long enough to really, like, be able to play with that in effect. And so I don't think she knew about it. Suri, I don't think the last time she played US Survivor Knowledge is Power was a thing. I could be wrong about that, but I don't think in Game Changers it was yet. And so, really, nobody there had ever known enough about it to know whether she was telling the truth or not. So, none of them thought to be like, hey, can I look at that and see what it says? So, I mean, it was brilliant. She thought about that right in that moment. And that is something that just makes her, Parvati is such an amazing player. The fact that she would, even in that moment, as so many things are racing through her mind, even to have that thought of just, let me not say this last sentence.
I know. That was impressive. I was hearing her talking about that now. I didn't realize she didn't even realize that until she was reading that. Like that's crazy.
Really, really crazy. But yeah, that tribal. I mean, I would say this episode, top five Survivor episode of all time.
Yeah. It was incredible.
It really, really was. And it doesn't end there,
No.
because we had a second surprise tribal council that came up right after Cass was voted out. They said, wait, we're doing this all over again. And they go right into an immunity challenge, and they then go right into another vote. But before they vote, Lisa actually tries to quit the game in an effort to save Tommy, who she knows is in trouble here because Cass just left, and Tommy's kind of, Lisa and Tommy are kind of on their own, but Tommy really was, Parvati knew he was part of the plan to blindside her in the last tribal. And so she is out for blood with Tommy. And I thought Tommy made such a good argument to try to save himself here. Like he said, like, just take the shot at Parvati here. If she uses her idol, at least you flushed it. And I don't know why Luke and Janine and all them didn't take that, because I think that would have been so good for their games. But I guess now we know kind of later on that Luke and Janine and Parvati and Suri were just kind of so locked in at this point that they would have never gone for it. But I do still think it would have been smart for them. At least take the shot. If you miss, you miss. But if you get it, then you've gotten out the top player of this season that you just saw make this incredible move just an hour before. But yeah, what were your thoughts on this twist of having a second tribal council and then everything that occurred there?
Yeah, it was so quick. Also, I felt like because we just had that crazy tribal and then went into another immunity challenge and then tribal right after that, it was just so much happening, but it was exciting to see it. And I did feel like after Tommy lost that challenge that he was going to go home just because of what was happening in the tribal prior to his that he's getting voted out at because he was really standing true on like showing how much of a threat that Parvati is and all of that. And like, I feel like, I mean, not in that tribal yet, but like he was talking about that the new one. It's weird because there were two in the same
I
challenge.
know it's hard to distinguish. Yeah.
But in the second part of the episode, a second part of the tribal, it was Tommy just, I feel like really trying to stand up for himself. And I appreciated that. Like it did seem like he was trying to go out with a bang and do that for himself and just for Finland for his home
Tommy from Finland. I know
Tommy
you
from
have to say his
Finland.
full name.
I know, I love that. But I mean, people will remember him now for just trying it at least. So he did something.
Oh yeah, I love Tommy. Oh, he was adorable. I really liked, I originally was a little bit questioning, like, should it have been Australia versus US? Do we really need all these random world players? Is it even fair to them to have them all come in like on their own versus all these other like Australians who know have like seven of them that they all know each other, and then US that at least have three of them together, but versus all, Lisa, Cass, and Tommy, who were just kind of by themselves. And the first guy that was voted off, what was his name? I can't think of it at this moment, but
No.
they were all, the four of them were all just by themselves, and so I just don't. I originally thought like, is do we really need that? But I really liked getting to know them, and I think that they were so interesting because there's just this unknown factor. It's kind of like a rookie on the challenge or something, where it's like I think it's fun to just kind of get to know these new personalities while also getting to see our favorite people. Like I think Cass is incredible. And we never would have known. I would have never watched Survivor Quebec. But
Yeah.
I loved Cass. I mean, she was an incredible endurance competitor. She was really fun to watch. And I think that it's kind of these surprises, these little grenades that are thrown in that you don't know how it's going to go, but I think it went really, really well here.
Yeah, I totally agree. I really enjoyed getting to know them as well. I felt like, I mean, I had no idea who they were. And so now watching them on this season, I felt like, wow, they were actually, they held their own. They made it far.
Also, Rob was his name, the first one
Oh,
voted
yeah.
out.
Big guy.
Yes. All right. And let's move on then to our final four. So Parvati, Sari, Luke, and Janine go into the finale as the final four. What were your thoughts on just this as a final four and kind of who you thought had the best shot, who you were wanting to see win at this point? What were your thoughts going into the finale?
I was excited to see them. I kind of wanted to see Shawnee there as well to have a final four women. That would have been great. But I mean, I did like Luke, so I was happy for him. But obviously, was rooting for Parvati and Sari to be here. And then I like Janine throughout the season. Like, I feel like she was really smart in certain gameplays and just overall like making moves and also staying safe herself. So I think with her and Luke's relationship there, it also just made sense for the four of them to be there together. But I felt like overall, like this was a deserving final four.
Yeah, I kind of assumed that Parvati was going to win this season. Just going into the finale, just based on the edit that she had had, it was so clear that she was the narrator of the season. Like she is the main character. I think when you think of this season of Survivor, you're going to think of Parvati first. And that to me it was a situation where if Parvati didn't win, I would have been really disappointed. And I just don't think that Australian Survivor, based on all the other seasons, I have not seen every season of Australian Survivor, but I've seen a good majority of them. I think there's only two I haven't. So, in all of them that I have seen, there's not really been a surprise winner. Like, that's just not been a thing on Australian Survivor in the past, from my knowledge. And I just didn't necessarily expect that to change here. And so I just kind of assumed, like, okay, I think Parvati's got this. But what I was really, really hoping for, I really wanted to see Suri in a final tribal council. And I thought, we have Survivor 50. Hopefully she'll get that there. But I was like, oh, she's so close. Just get her to the finale. Like I don't even care. Like I would love to see Suri win Survivor, but more than that, I want to see her in a final three. I want to see her face a jury. I just want to see how she does. And I was just so heartbroken. But we'll get to that. But yeah, that was just kind of I loved seeing Parvati and Suri together again, and they called themselves their Survivor soulmates, which I loved, and I loved all the flashbacks and memories of them in Micronesia together and how they wanted to rewrite history. But I thought it was kind of funny because Parvati keeps talking about wanting to rewrite history, and I get it with heroes versus villains, but it feels like she's kind of also talking about with Micronesia. And I'm like, you won that season, Parvati. Why do you want to rewrite history there?
Yeah, no, that is funny to think back on that. But I love seeing their flashbacks as well. It was sweet just to see them playing together here, probably the last time they'll play together in Survivor. So it was great to see that. And just they made it pretty far, even though it wasn't to the final tribal exactly. It was almost there.
Yeah, and I do think like there's the way that Survivor Micronesia ended is slightly controversial because as they mentioned in the show, they all assumed it was going to be a final three. That had been the case for the last I think 3 seasons before that. And then it was a surprise final two. And then Suri, because of that, ends up getting voted out, leaving Parvati and Amanda, and Parvati wins that season. So I think at least here, at least Suri went out in a way that felt normal, fair at the very least.
Yeah.
Like they knew they were going into a tie, they knew it was going to be fire, and so it was like, okay, at the very least, like it wasn't like a surprise curveball that got Suri out this time, like advantage get in or the surprise final three or final two. At least this time it was something that she could have known what was going to happen based on the decisions she was making. I will also say this is the first time with Suri that I think I felt like if she went to the final three, she was not necessarily going to win. So is it better to get her out now versus having her actually make it? And for the first time, if she was going to make it, she would have probably lost. Maybe it's better this way. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good point. I agree with that.
Well, we Parvati ends up winning the final immunity challenge, and then like we kind of talked about, she and Suri plan to vote for Luke. They want to convince Janine to vote with them. Luke wants he and Janine to vote for Suri, which makes the vote a tie, so they'll go to fire. Janine was kind of the middleman here. She was a little bit of swing vote. Which do you think that she should have gone with Parvati and Suri to get Luke out? Because it seems like maybe we didn't quite see this all, but I feel like based on the exit interviews that we're seeing and what we're seeing in the show, people were really afraid to be in the final three against Luke. They really thought he had a good shot of winning this. So do you think, based on that perception, that it would have been better for Janine to go with Parvati and Suri and get out Luke here, or do you think she made the right move?
Yeah, well, I think because she wanted to speak to her loyalty, she knew that she had to go with Luke here. But I think if she hadn't made that promise to Luke, then she would have been thinking about it in terms of, okay, yeah, like he has a really strong resume here as well. Like, would I be able to beat him, or is he smart to go to final three with? Like, it doesn't, at that moment, like, she's probably not thinking as much, like, on the gameplay as much because she knew she had to stick true to her alliance there. But I mean, what she was thinking about it at least.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think she made the right move. I think that it was probably the biggest mistake was just getting this far with Suri and Parvati both. Like I think it probably would have behooved her and Luke to go with like Lisa or even like Cass, Thomas, Shawnee. Like I just think there are these people like Suri and Parvati are probably the two biggest threats you could possibly take to Final Four with you. Like I think Shawnee would have been a perfect person to bring to this far because I love her. I love Shawnee so much, but it didn't seem like she had done a ton in this season. And so I think she's kind of a great person to where like she's part of Australia. She and Luke could have really worked on that relationship with her and been like Australia strong. Let's get to final three together. And I think that would have been a person that they could have much more easily beat versus Parvati, who had played an incredible game and was clearly going to win against either of them. So I don't know. I'm sure there's other things that went into their decision there, but to me as a viewer, it felt like a little bit of a mistake to get this far with both Parvati and Suri.
Oh yeah, definitely. They're just strong powerhouses.
Yes, they are. Well, then, as we said, the vote ends up being a 2-2 tie between Suri and Luke. They go to fire, and Luke wins, making Suri the final member of the jury. So now let's get into some of the highlights from Final Tribal here. So let's just kind of just give our highlights, what we thought of each of their performances. Let's start with Janine. What did you think of Janine's performance in Final Three?
Yeah, I felt like she obviously we knew like from hearing about it on this season. I didn't know her before this, but that she does public speaking for a living and like goes and does kind of these talks and is a really strong businesswoman. So I figured she would be good at this final tribal and trying to put her case up and just showing how she played the game and overall her loyalties there. And I mean, she did a pretty good job, but then about the Kirby vote, like that kind of I mean, showed that she didn't stay true to Australia, which didn't sit right with some of the people there. So I think with that, like it kind of just put that like as a damper on her game. But I did like seeing her throughout the season. I just didn't think she would win.
Yeah, I thought she did okay with what she had done in the game, which honestly wasn't a ton. Like that Kirby vote, I think was the biggest move that she had made, and so I'm glad that she mentioned it and kind of highlighted that a bit. But overall, I just don't think that she was ever going to be able to give a speech that would paint her in a light that she should have won, because I just don't think that she should have. I think Luke and Parvati both seem to do a lot more and have more respect from the jury than she did, and so I thought she did fine. I don't think she made any huge errors, but yeah, I just don't think that she was ever going to be able to convince really anyone on the jury to vote for her.
Agreed.
Well, let's get to Luke. Luke talked a little bit about getting George out, making a deal with Janine to get to the end, wanting to work with Cass, Tommy, and Lisa, but they didn't take him up on that. So he realized that he and Janine needed to work with Parvati and Sari. He talked about ripping up his knowledge as power advantage. So he had some
Yeah.
things here to talk about. He had some meat on the bones of his game. But what did you think of his performance?
Yeah, no, I mean, I felt like he did have some good stuff on his resume that he could speak to and all of that. Like some of it, like seemed like kind of a crazy player. Like when we were seeing some things he's saying, and I'm just like,
Oh, Molly, you have
this
no idea from his other seasons. This was very, very tame Luke that we saw here.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I could imagine because I just feel like I mean, it makes it entertaining. He makes TV, but great TV. But I also was kind of like, well, is he just kind of lying some of these not lying, but like kind of fabricating in some of these stories and things that like he would explain and say how things happen and it's like, well, it didn't always happen exactly that way. And so I think that was like his biggest issue there is like I mean obviously he did have some control in the game and he never actually did have like not all of it the votes he wanted to happen like it didn't happen, you know, like he never had the control in the same way that Parvati did. So I think like he wanted that but he just didn't ever have it.
Hmm. I think his biggest thing was getting Parvati to rip up that knowledge is power advantage. And that's not something that we talked about really, but after Parvati revealed it in the
Yeah.
episode 7 tribal, he then the next day goes up to Parvati and tells her that he has an idol. And he tells Parvati to build trust, will you rip up your knowledge's power advantage so that way we're on even playing field. It shows me that you're going to work with me and that I don't have to worry about you stealing it. And he originally she does not want to do it. Eventually he wears her down and she agrees, fine, I'll do it. She rips it up. And he uses this in his final tribal as a way to say, like, look, Parvati's saying she had control this whole game, but I was able to convince her to do this thing that benefited her game in no way. And I think it's a strong argument. I really do. I think that he needed to highlight this. But I think that Parvati had a decent response to it, enough to where I think the jury didn't necessarily hold it against her, maybe as much as they even should have.
Yeah, no, it definitely was impressive of Luke to have Parvati break that up. I was honestly like, don't do it, Parv."
I
Like,
know.
but I mean, it did show she was loyal. But then obviously, then we're seeing Luke being like, well, actually, it doesn't matter. Like, he didn't actually wasn't gonna do anything with it at that point. Like, he could have still tried to get her out, kind of thing. But
Hmm.
I still feel like yeah, it wasn't a it was a great move. It just wasn't as beneficial for him at this point, just because obviously Parvati just had a better game.
Yep. Well, then let's talk about Parvati. So, Parvati had a lot that she did in this game, and I think probably her strongest move, of course, was the bluff. I think that that was her shining moment. That really, I mean, it was one of the best moves in Survivor history. I think you could say it was one of the best tribal performances I've ever seen, and I just think that alone was enough to warrant the win for her. But then beyond that, she even, was talking about that she was able to get Luke to reveal his idol to her based on that bluff. Unprompted, he told her that he had an idol. She had no idea about it. And yes, then he got her to rip up the immunity idol, or the knowledge is power advantage, but she didn't, she, I think, was able to paint this in a light that really made her look like she was the one in control, that she was the one able to get him to do something dumb rather than the other way around. And I think there's her ability to do that and to have everybody fully convinced, believe her, and so impressed by it is just so impressive and just shows what an incredible just social ability she has to put people under her spell and get them to think and do as she wants them to.
Oh, I know. I was so impressed to see her in this way and just able to just tell the stories as she does. Like I feel like obviously we see what she's doing in terms of the gameplay and everything, but just her articulation of it like makes it even better.
Mhm. Yeah, like as Luke is talking about, I love the jungle, I'm a jungle boy. And like that's his big thing of like, oh, I love Survivor because I love being outside. And she's talking about all the moves she made, all the strategy, like everything is like, just like she just painted it in such an incredible way that I don't see how any jury member doesn't just immediately be like, yeah, of course you deserve the win. Like
Yeah.
I think she's just this was a masterful performance by Parvati from beginning to end, but in the end she is rewarded with this win. It is a 6-1 vote. Sarah is the only one to vote for Luke. Does this make her the survivor greatest of all time?
I honestly do think this can crown her the title. I just feel like this game of seeing her this season just proves her just flawlessness in playing the game of Survivor, and ending it this way just was the cherry on top.
I think it's undisputed now that she has made three final tribals. She won her first time making it to the end. She lost the second time, yes, but it was a close vote. It's not like she was a zero vote finalist. She gave Sandra a run for her money there. And I think even jury members on that season have said that if they had seen what was happening in the way that it was actually happening, they would have voted for Parvati. Now, of course, that does not take anything away from Sandra's win because Sandra was able to, in that moment, convince them that she was the one who deserved that. So she absolutely deserves that win. I am not taking anything away from her there. But I think that even on the season that Parvati lost, making it to Final Tribal, she played an incredible game enough to where it was a close vote and other jury members have said that. I think it says a lot. And then she won the third time that she made it to Final Tribal. She only had one season that she didn't make it to the jury phase that she played on. Three of her four times she has. Or I'm sorry, four of the five times that she's played, she has now. And she just, I think this season she's playing against the best of the best, and even the best of the best, she was able to make look like rookies.
Yeah. No, it was incredible. I'm so impressed by Parvati. I feel like it's just like how does she do it? Like I'm watching her and I'm just like, how is she doing this?
I know it's incredible. It
Yeah.
really is. She's born to do this. And something that I want to point out too is that she has played now two other games that are not Survivor. She played Traders and she played Dondi. Dondi, she played a nearly flawless game. For I think it was 9 weeks or something like that, she was immune. She did not have to even worry about being voted into the temple because she was immune for almost the entire season. And on Traders, look, she didn't make it to the end of that, but she had a pretty respectable run on there too. Like she made it fairly deep. She was played as a faithful and a trader, and I think that that just shows that her skills, her abilities translate to other shows as well. Whereas a lot of other people who are incredible Survivor players go to another show and that doesn't necessarily translate as well. So I think all of that together to me, I think says that she is has a very good argument for being the go to Survivor.
Yeah. Agreed.
Well, let's then look ahead for a minute to a potential season two of Survivor Australia versus the World. Who would you want to see on it potentially?
Yeah, that's a good question. Like if it's looking at recent seasons, I feel like I would want Carolyn there. I just love her. Obviously we also saw her in the Traders, and I think she would be fun addition into Australia versus the World. Oh my gosh, I feel like I'm blanking on so many names right now, but there's so many options.
There are. I think the two obvious ones are Rob and Sandra.
Oh, well, yeah.
I
I didn't know
think
if they
like
would go
that to
back.
me. Yeah, like I think to me those are the two that if they do a second season, I could absolutely see them putting both or at least one of them on it. I think that Tyson would be a great pick. I know he was contacted for season one, and I think it was money dispute that he said no because they weren't willing to pay him enough. Now that they know it was a pretty big success, I think I wouldn't be surprised if they were able to potentially pay him more, or that maybe he would be willing to go on for the same amount because at least he knows that he's going to get some exposure from it, that it went well the first time. So I think that he would be fun. I think Kelly Wentworth would be
Oh,
great on it.
I love her.
So I think those would be the four that I would say I could definitely see from US. From Australia, there's a bunch of names. I mean, Simon, I think would be great. I know he's playing right now in the upcoming regular season, so I don't know if he would want to do back to back like that, but I think he's always fun. I think Jericho, who I mentioned earlier, got the cookie advantage. I think he would be great. I think Miles, the most recent winner, would be fantastic. AJ from this most recent season. There's a bunch. Australian Survivor has some great characters. A lot of the really, really big names were on this season, like David and George and Shawnee. So that leaves us with, not quite as many options as we have in the US, but I think that there's still plenty that they could definitely find enough to do this again.
Yeah, for sure. I'd love to see Boston Rob and Sandra there. That'd be so much fun. If they did it, and Tyson too. But
Yes.
we'll have to see. And Wentworth, all the ones you just mentioned.
Yeah. Yes. Well, we will see if this ever happens again. I sure hope it does because this was such a blast to
Yeah.
watch. So we will close the book on that for now. And let's move on to our Dancing with the Stars draft. Molly, take it away.
Yes, I'm so excited for Dancing with the Stars premiering Tuesday night. So when this is airing, it'll be tomorrow. So that's exciting because I feel like I mean, obviously it's been a year, but it has been a while since we've seen Dancing with the Stars. And last year and in recent years, we've had I feel like it's been more broadly shared with the US in general, just because of TikTok and more social media aspects to it. And I feel like with this season in particular, we're already seeing a lot of that as well, with some of these cast members being big on TikTok, and that adds to that. And also, obviously, all the pros all have big presences on their social media as well. So I think it's getting the hype up more than like sometimes I feel like you get going into Dancing with the Stars. So I'm excited for this season. How about you, Michael?
Yeah, I'm so excited. I mean, last season was so huge. The finale of last season was like the highest rated non-sports show, I believe, of the year. Like it was on like broadcast network at the very least, probably not counting streaming shows, but yeah, I think it was such a huge breakout hit. And I think that because of that, this season they were able to get some bigger names that they may not have been able to get before that. But because people know now that the show is as big as it is, they're probably able to pay more. People are willing to go on it that maybe wouldn't because they know they're going to get a large exposure from it. And so I think they got a really good cast here, and I'm really excited for it.
Yes, definitely. So for our draft today, we'll each pick our people until they're all gone. But and then we'll talk a little bit more about them as we think like how they're gonna do this season once we pick them. So we're gonna do this alphabetical order. So Michael, your name is first in the alphabet because you're MI and I'm MO. So Michael, who is your first pick?
Yeah, I am going to pick this person just because I think that, first of all, his sister already won the show. And I think that this is something that he has thought in his mind as something, as a possibility, as something that he wanted to do for many, many years. He has a great partner. I think that he is just, I really have a lot of faith that he is going to, if not win, make it very, very far. I would be shocked, honestly, if he didn't make the finale. I'm gonna go with Robert and Whitney.
Okay, good choice. I feel like he is a popular one to win. In my opinion, I don't know. I mean, I think he has a lot of fans, but I feel like there are some other people that have more like of the voting support that he does.
That's true. I don't know that he's, yeah, I don't know that he's the biggest in terms of just like name recognition and like the having the largest fan base, but I think the combination of his, I think, still large fan base
Yeah,
and Whitney's fan base too. Of course, you have to think about that.
true.
And I just think he is somebody who I would be very surprised if he wasn't consistently in like the top two or three score getters. I just think that he is going to, like, Bindi was incredible. And I just would be surprised if he was very different from that. Like
Yeah,
that would kind of surprise me. And I think, he and Derek, I'm sure, are going to have like a very special kind of rapport because Bindi was partnered with Derek. And so I just think that there's a lot of factors here that I think work in his favor.
yeah, no, that's true. I'm supporting him. I think he's going to do great, and I'm excited to see him on the show. But my first pick, it's going to be Dylan Efron and
Mm.
Daniela. I have a lot of high hopes for Dylan. I feel like he is just such a sweetheart. We saw him on The Traitors, obviously. That's how he's got his fame now. But his brother is Zac Efron. But now we can associate him as the Traitors winner. Um,
Yeah,
but
don't pull a Mike Bloom.
no.
Don't make that mistake. His name is Dylan. He's playing a pretty good game so far, and at least if you're gonna be fishing for likes, at least have the respect to call him by his name.
Yes, yes. So Dylan, I think he's gonna do great. I think he obviously Daniela is like such a great pro as well, and I think he's just such a has a positive attitude, and I think that's gonna help him make him go far in this, and just overall like having the support of people online. Everyone loves to root for him for everything, so I think he'll get a lot of support as well.
No, I think this is a very good pick. Yeah, I think that Dylan. I feel like from his TikToks, he has the moves.
Yeah,
I, I think he's already showing that he has a pretty good shot to do well here. I think he's going to be great, and I think everyone loves Danny. I think that that's a good partner for him, and I think my only worry with Dylan, I look, everyone loves Zach. I think that the traders audience has fell in love with Dylan. I wonder if he's quite big enough of a celebrity. Like you said with Robert, I kind of have that a little bit same fear with Dylan,
okay.
that I just don't know if he has quite the fan base to propel him to a win. But I think that he certainly, I would be surprised, like I said with Robert, if he wasn't in like the top 4 or 5 to make it to finale.
Yeah, yeah, I can see that.
All right, I guess that's my pick again. I am gonna go with. Now, I think I have to go with somebody who probably has the largest fan base. And I don't know how she is going to be as a dancer, but I would, again, I think I've said this for both of the other two, but I would be surprised if her fan base alone didn't propel her pretty far here. I think I have to go with Alex Earl.
Yeah, I knew that once you said her fan base is the largest, I was like, oh, it's definitely Alex. And I think honestly, seeing some of her TikToks, like that she's been doing okay in dancing.
Yeah. And yeah, I fully believe she has potential. I just don't know. I'm not sure what her background is with dancing. So
Yeah.
I don't know if she has any large dance experience, but I think that she has every ability to learn very quickly. And I think that, again, her fan base alone, like, I mean, we know it's the Alex Earl effect. Everything she sells it promotes sells out. So I think if she posts on her Instagram, vote for me, I think you're going to have thousands and thousands of people who are not even watching the show just voting for her because it's her and they want to support her in whatever she's doing. So I think that it always works to, like, I think it's the Charlie D'Amelio thing. Like,
Mhm.
Charlie was incredible and absolutely deserved that win, but even if she didn't deserve it, I think that she would have made it just as far because of her fan base.
Oh yeah, for sure. I can see that. And I mean, we'll have to see, but she's definitely going to be getting lots of votes. And people also love Val, so that's also an added bonus
Yes.
there. Okay, so that's a good pick. I'm gonna go also get a girl next. I think that she is someone who does have dance experience from Utah, one of our favorite Mormon housewives or Mormon wives, Mormon wives. It's
It works.
Whitney Levitt. I feel like her and Mark as a pair or the duo there, like it's just they already seem to be doing really well in their dancing on online from the videos we've seen. And Whitney also just loves to dance, as we've seen also in Mormon Wives. And her TikTok, she's already was doing dances, obviously with Mom Talk. So I think she has those skills. Maybe not in the ballroom sense, but like I think that can translate pretty well, as we've seen with previous contestants who are having background of dance. So I think she's going to make it pretty far. And Mark also a great pro. Great, really glad to see him back and dancing as a pro this year.
I think having Mark as her partner is the best thing that could have ever happened to Whitney. I think that Mark is just somebody who by himself has such an incredible fan base, and the fact that he is coming back now after a few years off, I think also gets his fans very excited and wanting him to last a while because they just want to see more of his dances and more of his choreography because he's incredible. And so I think Whitney and Jen are probably going to split the Mormon Y fan base vote for a bit. And I wonder if that will work as a disadvantage to both of them, unfortunately. Just the fact that they're both going to kind of be having coming in with similar audiences and fan bases. But I think if either of them are going to edge out the other, I think Whitney is going to make it further just because, first of all, she has Mark as her partner.
Yeah.
And Jen, unfortunately, Jen has a new partner to the show who obviously comes in with a fan base of his own, the Swifties, but I don't know, we see, Ezra last season first went out because he was new. Like we see that even though, I mean, that was for other reasons too, but we often see that first time pros don't make it very far because
Mhm.
most other couples have two different fan bases voting for them, the fan base of the celebrity and the fan base of the pro. And if you come in as a new pro, you're only getting votes from one fan base of that celebrity. And you have to build up that fan base of your own as a pro.
Mhm.
So I think that's Jen's disadvantage here. That could work to Whitney's advantage. That if Jen leaves early, then Whitney now has all the Mormon wife fan base votes. And then I think that she has a larger chance to make it pretty far.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. So who do you pick next, Michael?
Okay. Well, speaking of new-ish pros, I think I have to vote for somebody who is paired with a new-ish pro that has become, I mean, we talk about social media on Dancing with the Stars. She is somebody who was a huge factor in making that a reality. And I think that her partner here has also, from what I've seen, it has a lot of potential. And I have to go with Scott Hoying and Riley.
Yes, that is good. That's who I would have gone next if you did not get them. But I do have some high hopes for them. I feel like Riley is just incredible, and I love seeing her TikToks. And Scott just seems like he's already picking up dances really well too. So I think he's gonna do well.
Yeah. I don't know much about Scott, to be honest, but from what I've seen on social media, he seems to have a really, really fun personality and I think a lot of skills as a dancer that I'm excited that I think they're going to be a really, really fun pair.
Yes, definitely agree. Okay, so next I'm gonna take Jordan Childs and
Mhm.
Ezra. So I obviously love Ezra. Sad to see him go first last season due to unfortunate circumstances of who he was paired with. But this year it's his redemption arc. I feel like coming. Jordan, obviously Olympian gymnast. I feel like anyone who is a gymnast just is really good at dancing. We've seen Sean Johnson and
Yeah.
who else? Not that other
Allie
Harley
Raisman.
Raceman, yeah. So like we've seen them do super well in the past. So I feel like with that, Jordan has some big shoes to fill, but I think with Ezra, their relationship there, I think will be fun and entertaining for us, and obviously getting fans to vote is a big part of it. And Ezra has a lot of fans now that he has from building that up from last season, and people want to see him succeed. And also Jordan Childs, obviously as an Olympian, has a lot of fans, so I see them going pretty far.
Yeah, they're going to make it very, very far. I have very high hopes for them. I think this was a really good pick. I was certainly debating picking her for my last couple picks as well. So I think this is, yeah, a very smart choice that she's going to make it far.
Oh yeah, I'm excited.
Well, my next pick, I think, has to be for somebody who was a late addition to the show this year and didn't even get in a cast pick before she was announced. She was a only found out just a couple days before Good Morning America, and I am going to go with Lauren and Brandon.
Okay, interesting. I feel like she would do well, but I don't know how much. I guess her Fifth Harmony fan base will root for her. I just haven't seen her dancing as much, I feel like.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that she's gonna do fine. I see her as like a middle boot. Like I
Yeah.
don't see her as an early. Like I think she's gonna easily make it past the first like 3 or 4 weeks. And then I feel like about halfway through is when I start to worry about Lauren. That I think she's going to be someone who's probably consistently getting like sevens. I just see that. I don't know why, but I just see her as somebody who's like consistently doing well, but once the competition starts to get stiffer, she kind of just slowly gets closer and closer to the bottom of the leaderboard and doesn't quite have the fan base to allow her to propel her above some of the others. And yeah, I picked her honestly just because I think it's pretty safe to say like I don't think she's going to be an early boot.
Yeah. No, that's totally fair. I can see that happening. Okay, so next up, I'm gonna go with I'm trying to decide here. I have a few. I'll do Danielle Fishel here.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, I think she has some strong potential here. Also paired with Pasha, so also really strong pro. And I like her personality, and just I think they'll be a fun duo there. I want to root for throughout the season.
Yeah, I think a good pick. She was the one that I was debating between with her and Lauren. My only thing is that I just think Danielle is a little bit older, and so I worry that like, she has that potential to maybe not, maybe the choreography is gonna be a little easier and not necessarily to where she's going to be getting like have the ability to get like those eights nines and might be like a little bit capped at like a little bit of a lower score just because she may not be able to do the tricks and flips and all the fun stuff that really like the wow factor of it all. So that's my only fear for her, but I think seems like she has a really large fan base that's excited about seeing her, and I mean, that millennial vote is big for Dancing with the Stars. So I think that she has a lot of potential to get a lot of votes. And I see her making it pretty far.
Yeah, I hope so. So who do you want next,
Ugh,
Michael?
okay, this is getting tough now.
I
I
know.
think I have to probably go with our other Secret Lives of Mormon Wives pick here. So let's talk some, maybe to get some Ben Affleck fan voters with Jen Affleck and our new pro. We have our brand new Swifty alum. Jan Ravnik is her partner, so maybe we get some Swifty votes.
Yeah, no, I'm excited to see Jen here. I think, I mean, obviously with Jen too, it's funny their names are only one letter apart.
I know.
Um, the J and J. But I think, yeah, Jen obviously has so many fans from Mormon Wives. And with Jan, with all the Swifties there, I see them going pretty far. If like with obviously their dancing skills, like if they can live up to it of what we want to see. But I think that they have some strong potential.
Yeah, and look, Jen's coming off a season where I think she looked pretty good. I think she had a lot of support from the viewers and was very vulnerable. And I think that she has some goodwill there that maybe Whitney doesn't have quite as much. So as much as Whitney is benefited by her partner Mark, I think that Jen, just in terms of the fan base of the show, probably has more supporters. So maybe there are some people who, just because of that, are more willing to give their votes to Jen versus Whitney. So I think, Jen probably has. I think Jen's going to be a good dancer. Like, I don't have
Yeah.
any reason to believe that Jen's not going to be a good dancer. So I think that she'll do great.
Yeah, I mean, she's done pretty good TikToks, I feel like, of her dancing and everything like that. Like, I feel like she's actually a good dancer. So I'm
Yeah.
excited to see her on the show. I would have picked her, but then I didn't want to do both, Mormon Wives. So I was letting you have it.
Hmm.
But next up, I'll do Baron Davis. So I
Okay.
think so he's with Brit. I think obviously NBA stars they do pretty well here too, having their NBA fan base. But then also just like I feel like they have pretty good footwork with in terms of their endurance and everything like that too. Just as an NBA player that he has to have. So I'm excited to see him with Britt. Also, I love Britt, and I'm happy for her now that she's married. Who she met her husband from Dancing with the Stars. So it's
I
crazy.
know, Daniel, yeah.
Yeah, I know it's so sweet to see them together. So I want to root for her and also Baron.
Yes. Yeah, I think Barron has definitely potential to be good here. I think that athletes are very hit or miss on Dancing with the Stars. You have some that are great and can do all sorts of lifts and crazy, light on their feet. And I think like there's, good examples. And then there's also some athletes who aren't necessarily as inclined to do well. So I think we will just have to see. I think very quickly on episode 1 we're going to be able to tell which category Baron falls in. So I think if he is pretty good, then I think that yeah, he'll have the fan base to back it up probably. Although I don't know. Are Dancing with the Stars and sports fans? I don't know if those are necessarily go hand in hand. So I don't know. I think it's he certainly could make it far. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. Yes. So who
All
do you
right. I think my next pick is going to be for. Hmm, I'm between two. I think I'll go with Elaine. I
have?
think I'll
Okay.
go with Elaine Hendricks and Alan Burston. I I don't know that I see her making it far, but I don't think she'll be like the first one out. I think that she'll at least make it like 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah, no, I can see that. I think that she obviously is older as a like not like she's old, but like, in a
Yeah.
dancing sense, she's older. And I think that's gonna be not to her benefit there, but she's gonna do well for the time that she is there.
Yeah, and people love Alan. Alan's great. So she has a good partner and look, she's not that old either. I don't want to like she's not like, in her 80s. She has certainly still potential to do well and be a good dancer. So I think that she is I don't think that she's going to make it to finale night, but I think I could see her being like a surprise uh very good dancer, better than people expect.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that as well. Okay, next up I'm gonna choose Corey Feldman with Jenna Johnson. Was that who you were almost gonna do?
No.
Oh, really? Oh,
Mhm.
yeah, no, I think that I mean Jenna's just incredible. Obviously, she won last season with Joey, but Corey, I don't really know his dancing skills, but I think that with Jenna, anyone can look good. So I think that that's to his benefit here. And I don't think they'll be going all the way, but I think they can make it like maybe beginning quarter.
My only fear is that he hasn't been showing up to rehearsals.
Yeah,
I mean, have you been seeing like all this, like
I
Jenna
did.
saying like the other day, like I haven't seen him since Good Morning America, and now they are rehearsing. She said that they're back in the studio, but that's a lot of time lost. Like I think I see him as somebody who probably signed up for the show not realizing how hard it would be and how time consuming it would be. And that's my fear, is that I just think that he is somebody who maybe has potential, but just isn't willing to put in the work to actually see that potential.
Yeah. But I mean, they do get a lot of time before the season starts, like more than
Hmm.
they do during the season. So maybe he just was like, well, I'm going to have that much time later on. Like it's going to be the same kind of timing to train. So maybe it just wasn't as a priority as at that moment, but like now it will be.
Yeah, and I have no idea. Some of them it's crazy with Dancing with the Stars. Like Robert Irwin was like announced months ago and has had all this time to prep versus Lauren, who just found out 2 days before the announcement. So like it is very kind of uneven in that sense. So I don't know when Corey found out that he was going to be on. But it's certainly possible that he's known for months and has been, prepping, although they don't have this access to the studio and their partner, and they don't know who their partner is and whatever until a certain day. But, if he is known for a long time, he certainly could have been putting in some work to get prepped for it. So who knows?
Yes, for sure. So
All
next up,
right. My last pick.
yes.
I. This is hard. Okay, I think I'm going to go with Andy.
Oh, interesting.
Here's why. I think that Andy is going to be really, really fun to watch. I just think that he is going to be like capture the hearts of America, even if he's not a great dancer. And Emma is very good with partners like this. She is a partner a pro who has gotten partners like this in the past. It's become kind of a running joke of like, why do Emma and Britt always have the old partners that don't have any potential to make it far? But I think that with Andy, he's not going to be a fantastic dancer. He's probably going to get like fours the first week, but I think that he is going to have a really good attitude and that fans are going to just want to see him make it at least a couple weeks because they want to just continue to watch him. And I think Carrie Ann's going to love him. She's going to fall for him and probably score him too high, and then she's going to probably hate somebody like, I don't know, Jordan or Lauren, and score them lower than they deserve. So it'll even out.
Yeah, no, I can see that. I think people like to root for the underdog, and obviously Andy's going to be a big underdog in this scenario. But I think he will be enjoyable to watch for the time he is there. So then that leaves me with my last pick, which the only one left is Hilaria Baldwin. So I feel like with her and Gleb, I don't know how far they're going to go in the season. I think it'll be as I don't know. She could make it through one episode maybe, but I don't see her going further.
So this is why I didn't pick them. Gleb is not a fan favorite pro right now. He
Yeah,
almost didn't make it on the season.
true.
And I think that people are going to just not want to see Gleb this season. I think he, was kind of tiring to watch last season with everything with him and his partner, and they had so much off camera drama. And I think just people, most every other pro fans really love. And I just think that Gleb right now is kind of the one pro that people don't love. And unfortunately, it is a show now where both the celeb and the pro have their own fan bases, and I just don't think that Gleb has as big of a fan base right now that will be willing to vote for them as a partnership, just if anything because of Gleb, as the other pros have their own fan bases. So That's my one problem, and I don't think that America really loves Hilaria Baldwin either so much that I don't know how big of a fan base she has. So I just think the combination of that, even if their scores are a bit higher than some others, I don't know that that's going to be enough to make up for the lack of a fan base.
Yeah, for sure. So we'll have to see. But I'm happy with my top picks. So we'll see if those can make
Yeah,
it all the way to the end. Michael, how do you feel about your team?
I like my team. I think we both have a pretty even team. I think. I think it's gonna we're gonna have a close run here. I think we're not gonna have a blowout by any means.
No, I mean, with Dancing with the Stars too, it's a lot easier to guess and talent
Yeah,
wise and knowing
it
what's
really
going to do
is.
well. Besides for like obviously in like Traders or Survivor, you never really know what's going to
Yeah,
happen. But for this, we can kind of get a sense into what's going to be.
yeah.
But so excited for that premiere. And we're also getting Survivor next week. So
Oh my
lots to look
God, I can't
forward
believe
to.
everything's coming back all at once.
I
Oh boy.
know. It's exciting though. Fall is my favorite month because it's also my birthday on the premiere of Survivor, so that's exciting. But yes, make sure you guys are all subscribed so you don't miss our episodes each week. You can find us wherever you get your podcasts, and also follow us on social media at Let's Chat Reality. And we'll chat with y'all again next week. Thanks so much for listening.
Bye, everyone.